Welcome to our presentation on focus groups for EDL 690 by Candace Warden, John Apodaca, Joshua Whiteside, Sheila Davis, and David Reese, your narrator. Let's begin with the definition. Focus groups are structured interviews used to gather information from members of a clearly defined audience. This audience is typically composed of a group of people who share a common interest or common characteristics and whom are brought together by a moderator. Focus group participants are usually composed of 7 to 10 people who are familiar with each other. However, it's not uncommon to have as many as 15 or as few as 4 participants. Regardless of the number of participants, participants typically have characteristics in common which relate to the focus of research. A moderator's main objective is to use group interaction to gain information about a specific issue. The moderator or interviewer creates a nurturing environment that encourages different perceptions and points of view. In focus groups, there is no pressure to plan, vote, or reach consensus. There are right ways to use focus groups, such as in exploring feelings, perceptions, and motivations, understanding consumers' reaction to a product or ad, seeking or giving guidance to the development process, exploring issues to get insight, or attempting to understand the story behind the numbers. Then there are the wrong ways, which is illustrated in this graphic. In short, focus groups should not be used to count participants, create estimates, or develop statistics that can be better derived from quantitative research methodologies. To provide an example of how focus groups were used in education, I would like to turn your attention to the Loras and Foster research, wherein 2 focus groups of 6 students were used to evaluate a new nursing program and suggest changes and improvements. The questions that the second group received were: what has it been like to be the first group of students going through the program? What things have you done to help you deal with the stressors imposed by the program? Where do you obtain your main source of support? What do you wish to gain from this educational experience? What motivated you to enroll in this program? Both groups were videotaped and the transcriptions were analyzed for themes and categories. 5 themes that emerged from this data were general curriculum issues, orientation issues, recommendations, faculty facilitation of learning, and concerns about the new program. Data from the focus groups were used to make changes. So now let's move to who uses focus groups and, more importantly, why anyone should consider using them. First off, why do we use them? Focus groups can provide information about a specific topic. In a focus group, people may be more willing to talk. They can add a level of discussion on the topic. In focus groups, people are able to use their own language. Focus groups are often seen as a safe place. And finally, focus group responses can provide more depth of understanding on a particular topic. Through a focus group, a researcher is able to identify trends such as in patterns of perceptions and how a product or service is perceived by the group. There are many advantages of using a focus group. For example, that they are relatively inexpensive. They are also more likely to provide truthful responses than a typical survey. The facilitated dialogue can allow partakers to build on each other's ideas through piggybacking. These groups can also be used as a first step to identify potential problem areas, allowing a more in-depth analysis to be planned. With all of the above, a focus group is a vital fragment of evaluating public perceptions. Additionally, focus groups can also allow a researcher to examine how diverse groups reason and feel about a subject and why they hold certain sentiments, and investigate complex behavior. It can allow a researcher to identify changes in behavior and authenticate and clarify results from surveys. recommend possible explanations to complicated data from decision-making, strategic development, and resource distribution. And finally, it can also allow to expand the understanding and clarify statistical information. Now, along with the advantages comes disadvantages to a focus group. So, for example, a focus group relies heavily on assisted dialogue to yield results. Consequently, the facilitation of the dialogue is critical. This means that the quality of a focus group relies heavily on the skill of the moderator. If sessions aren't steered correctly by competent individuals, then you may find that you don't get the results you want, and consequently, you may end up wasting time and wasting money. Some additional disadvantages are that some people have more confidence than others and may try to dominate the group. Also, focus groups may not be useful for gathering statistics, as it only allows you to analyze people's views but not the number of people holding that view. Additionally, in a focus group, the wrong combination inside a group can cause problems and may not work effectively. And yet more disadvantages are that this is not a rock-hard method, so it may be difficult to compare information between groups. Sometimes it's difficult to establish confidence within a group as opposed to an individual interview. And some people in the group can be persuaded by others in the group. So a focus group occurs in 3 phases. The first phase is conceptualization, then it's the interview, and finally it's the reporting and analysis. In the conceptualization phase, you should determine the purpose of the study, consider why focus groups should be conducted, ask who can provide the needed information, develop a plan and estimate needed resources, specify procedure, timeline, and proposed budget, and finally, allow others to review the plan before the data is analyzed. In the interview phase, you should develop the questions. Remember, questions should be carefully planned but appear spontaneous during the interview. For best results, a focus group session should include at least 5 or 6 questions, but it should also include less than 10 questions. It should use open-ended questions and avoid yes/no questions. In the analysis and reporting phase, remember that analysis should begin by going back to the intent of the study. The moderator and assistant should write down summary comments and write an even more complete summary of the discussion. This written summary should be prepared within hours after the session and before the next focus group. The moderator and assistant should compare notes, share observations, and talk about participant response to key questions. Responses that are specific and based on experiences should be given more weight than responses that are vague and impersonal. Find the big ideas. Look for trends that cut across the entire discussion. For more information about focus groups, check out any of the references listed below. Thank you for watching.